Hey, what's up, guys? It's Mr. iPoc here for a homework help video over lesson 1.3, ordering real numbers. So we did this in lecture and lab today, and we will. I'm just going to work through a couple problems here. So here we go. We got square root of 5 plus 5 and 3 plus the square root of 24. It's really almost impossible for us to determine what this is, like less than, greater than, or equal to, without really getting it to be one number and that number being in decimal form. So the first step is to approximate these irrational square roots. So the square root of 5. So I'm going to come to here, draw a number line, and then I'm going to ask myself, what is the square root of 5? Well, draw a number line. What perfect square roots is that between? Well, the square root of 5 would be between the square root of 4 and the square root of 9, which is between 2 and 3. Then fill out the rest of it. The middle of that is 2.5. And in the middle up here would be 4 plus 2 plus a half, so that would be 6.5. Again, that's 4 plus 2 plus a half. Will always give you the middle of the top two numbers. And then from there, we pick a side and shade. So 5 is less than 6.5, so we don't need this side over here. And then you can go ahead and mark this. The middle of that's 2.25. All right. So then from there, if we're looking at this problem, is to determine the distance. So the square root of 5 is one number from here, and it's 1.5 from here. So it's closer to 4, so we don't need this side. So it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 2.5, and I'm just going to put it right after it. So I'm going to say it's approximately 2.1. So now this becomes 2.1 plus 5, which would give us 7.1. Now let's go over here and work this side. So we got this side of decimal form, so now we need to get this side. So first step, draw your number line. The square root of 24. Ask yourself, it's between which two perfect square roots? It's between the square root of 16 and the square root of 25, which is 4 and 5. The middle of 4 and 5 is 4.5. You can go ahead and put what's in the middle, 4.75 and 4.25. Now, we got to find the middle of here so we can see where 24 goes. So you can say 16 plus 4 plus a half, so 20.5. And then think, if you ever just want to check that, basically we're just taking the average of 16 and 25. So 16 plus 25 divided by 2 is 20.5. So it's the middle of these two numbers. All right? 24 is greater than 20.5, so we don't need this left side. We just need the right side. So over here, determine the distance. It's one number from this, and it's 3.5 from 24. So it's closer to 25, so we don't need this side. So now we know it's between 4.75 and 5, so I'm going to put it pretty close since this number is so small, and I'm going to say that is approximately 4.9. So 4.9 plus 3 would be 7.9. So see how we're comparing these two numbers? So then we would say this is 7.1 is less than 7.9, so the square root of 5 plus 5 is less than 3 plus the square root of 24. Okay, going on to let's just skip right down here to number 5. 5, 3 times the square root of 2 plus 3. So now we have this is kind of taking it up a notch because now you're multiplying this 3 times the square root of 2. So when you're multiplying this, basically you need to figure out what the square root of 2 is first. Okay, so the square root of 2, I'm going to draw a number line. I'm going to ask myself, what is it between? The square root of 2 is between the square root of 1 and the square root of 4, which is 1 and 2, which is 1.5 is the middle. And then we have 1.25, and this middle is 2.5. 2 is less than 2.5. 1 plus 1 plus a half is 2.5, so that's our middle. 2 is less than that, so we don't need this right side. So from there, 2 is 0.5 from this number and 1 from this, so we don't need this side because it's closer to 2.5. So I'm going to put it right over here, so I'm going to say this is approximately 1.4. But now this is where it gets tricky because it's not just 1.4 plus 2, it's the square root of 2 times 3. So you got to say 1.4 times 3 plus 2. So I'd come over here on the side and I'd say 1.4 times 3, old school math. 4 times 3 is 12, add the 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, and then there's one decimal place. So now we got 4.2 plus 2, which is 6.2. Okay, and then from there, we got the left side. Now let's go to the right side. So the right side is the square root of 3. So again, you need to figure out what that is in order to multiply it times 2. So draw your number line. And it's okay if you want to work this out on a separate sheet of paper, if you have to. So square root of 3 is between the square root of 1 and the square root of 4. which is 1 and 2, and the middle is 1.5, and the middle up here is 2.5. Again, to find the middle, 1 plus 1, or you can say 1 times 2 plus a half, either one. So 3 is actually going to be greater, so we don't need this side over here. 3 is greater than 2.5, so it's going to be over here, so we got 1.75. 1.75. And then from there, 3 is 0.5 from here and 1 from there, so it's going to be closer to this side, so we don't need this side over here. So square root of 3, I'm going to say it's approximately 1.6. So we got 1.6, and then don't forget your 2 times 2 plus 3. So multiplication first, 1.6 times 2 is going to be, 6 times 2 is 12, add the 1, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, bring your decimal. So we got 3.2 plus 3. Well, 3.2 plus 3 is actually 6.2. Okay? So what we're looking at here is these are going to be equal to each other, because 6.2 and 6.2 is equal to each other. And I know some of our approximations may be a little bit different, but that's basically kind of putting it really close together. So that's equal to. Now let's go down and work number 9. 10 minus the square root of 8 compared to 12 minus the square root of 2. So again, I need to figure out this in order to do this operation. So square root of 8. The square root of 8 is between the square root of 4 and the square root of 9. So we got 2 and 3. We got 2.5 here, and then up here we're going to have 4 plus 2 plus a half, 6.5. Now we ask ourselves, and we can put 2.75 here, and then we can put 2.25 here just to kind of fill out our number line. 8 is bigger than 6.5, so we don't need this side. Then we ask her to determine the distance. It's one number from 8 is one number from 9, and is 1.5 away from 6.5, so it's smaller, so it's going to be closer to 3, so we don't need this side. So the square root of 8, I'm going to say, is approximately 2.9. 2.9. And then, obviously, from here, you would just say 10. You could say 10.0 minus 2.9, whatever you have to do to kind of figure that out, okay? And then, so, with you having 10.0 minus 2.9, kind of some old school math there, so 10 minus 2.9, if you can kind of work it out, or, you know, just to save time for my video, that's going to be 7.1, okay? Obviously, you could work that out a little bit if you had to. Then that changes to 9, so 10 minus 1. Okay, so that's 7.1. So your answer on this side, 7.1. Go to this side, 12 minus square root of 2. So still, draw your number line out. And really, I don't even know if you have to draw your number line, because if you think about it, we already figured out the square root of 2 up here was, what? 1.4. So really, you just got to say 1.4. And then 12 minus that 1.4. Okay? So if you bring it over here, 12.0 minus 1.4. You subtract those out, you're going to get, obviously change this to a 10, which makes that 11. So that's a 6. 11 minus 1 is 10. 10.6. So you got 10.6 compared to 7.1, and this side it's going to be 7.1 is less than. So we say less than there. That's the front side. Going to the back just to work a problem, a few of them. Let's look at number 13 to start. So 13. We got the square root of 8, 3.5, square root of 3, and square root of 86, and pi squared. So as you see, this can kind of get crazy real quick. And there's not a lot of room here. You can work it out on your paper. But I'm just going to begin to solve this. The square root of 8. So again, you know, draw your number line out. And you got the square root of 8, which would be, it's between square root of 4 and the square root of 9, which is 2 and 3. Middle of that's 2.5. I'm kind of going through this kind of quick because we should already know this. And then it's less than this. And then, you know, you got 2.75 here. It's 1.5 from here. It's 1. We just kind of worked this problem, so we don't need this. So we're going to say it's 2.9. So right here is 2.9. 3.5 will work for 3.5. Square root of 3, draw a number line. It's between the square root of 1 and the square root of 4. We got 1 and we got 2. We got 1.5, which is 2.5. It's going to be just past that 2.5, right? If you 2.75, we don't need that. And it's 0.5 from there. It's 1 from there. So it's going to be between here. So 1.6. 1.6. And then to work out the square root of 86, the square root of 86 is between the square root of 81 and the square root of 100. So we got 9 and 10. 9.5, and right here we'd have 90.5. So it's going to be to the right over here, and then 9.25. So if we're looking at this, 86 is 5 numbers from 81, and it is 4.5 from here. So it's going to be between 9.25 and 9.5. Okay, so it's going to be, I'd say it's about right in the middle, so about 9.4. And then you have pi squared, which is going to be 3.14 times 3.14. That's 16, add the 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 4 times that is 12, add a 0. Then we got 413, add 2 zeros. I know I'm getting kind of messy here. That's, let me bring it. So we got 2 zeros, and then we have 3 times that is 12, add the 1. 3 times 1 is that, plus 4, and then you got 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so once you add all that up, I really don't have the kind of the room to show you there, but once you get it, you're going to get about 9.86. Okay, now you have all these in the same form, so that's your goal, is to get them all in the same form. Now put them in least to greatest. I would start by doing like, that's the second one. There's your third one, your fourth one, and your fifth one. So now you put them in order. So you got the square root of 3, comma, mark that off, square root of 8, comma, 3.5, mark that off, square root of 86, and then pi squared. And you're just putting those in order from least to greatest. Okay. Going to 15. I'm going to kind of work 15 out without showing you more of the steps, so really just kind of help you out here. So obviously 0 is 0. Negative 2 is negative 1.4. 3 times square root of 5. Well, square root of 5 is just past 4, so it's going to be 3. So if I bring this down here, it's 5 square root. So we got 3 times square root of 5 is approximately 2.1. And then 2.1 times 3 is 3, 6.1. So we got 6.1 there, so that's 6.1, and then 14 over 4, in Tops numbers on the inside, this on the outside, is an improper fraction. 4 goes into 14 3 times, which would give us 12. We're left with 2. That won't work, so we zeros, add decimals and bring zeros down. 4, we're going to that 5 times, so we got 3.5 there. So if we put all these, we obviously have, this is the first one, that's the second one, that's the third, and that's the fourth. So to put this out in order, I would say negative square root of 2, comma, 0, comma, 14 over 4, comma, and then 3 square root of 5. And that would be the order that I'm looking for there. Okay. Last one I'll work, just due to this video going kind of long. This is kind of some deeper problems. So again, would be negative 0.2, so obviously that's negative 0.2. So you just got to put these on, graph the numbers on the number line. So negative 0.2 would be about right here, so it's negative 0.2. 7/10 is just 0.7, so that's going to be just on the right side of this. So I'm going to say 7/10. Negative 1 is obviously right here. Square root of 2 is approximately 1.4, so I'm going to bring this right here and say the square root of 2, and then negative 4 is right over here, negative 4. Hey, this concludes this video for Lesson 1.3 Homework Help. I hope this helps, and have a good evening.